And I say this with good reason. I mean, if for instance, we cannot produce a president for this country at the age of 40, and as far as I'm concerned, I don't know for others, but 40 is still a relatively young age for me. If you can't produce after close to 18 years, over 18 years, yes, of democracy, in which that constitution that put that minimum requirement was in place, if you can't produce a president at 40, what guarantees do you have that you can do that 35? If you cannot produce a governor and a senator at 35 years old, which is the minimum requirement of the previous law, what guarantees do you have that you can do it at 30? You know, so the reality is that even when those laws were there, I mean, a 35-year-old guy is still a relatively young person. And there's no record today that we're able to produce a governor or a senator at that age. What you found was that you still had a lot of all these old people there.
But we had an Orji Uzor Kalu as governor at 39, Saminu Turaki of Jigawa at 36. We even had speakers of the House of Representatives. We had Salisu Buhari. We also had Dimeji Bankole, also at pretty young ages. What is different now?
What's the statistics of that? Given the number, I mean, you are talking about probably less than 1% of representation. I mean, that's representative enough as far as I'm concerned. See, the reality is this: there's a systemic issue that makes it virtually almost difficult for young people to get there. It impacts the education system. The education system makes it difficult. The party system makes it difficult. By the time you ask a young man to vie for president, for governor, let him not even go for president, and he has to go and buy a form for 10 million naira, for 22 million naira, where do you want him to get the money from?
Well, hopefully that will come to be in the future. But Victor, let me come back to you now. What is the essence of the Not Too Young to Run bill? Is it just to have youths in the system, or there's something that people are not seeing at the moment, or in what is being shared online and as well as in the bill that is going round?
The whole essence of Not Too Young to Run, as it's not about governance, it's about giving them the platform. So when that platform comes, we can no longer be talking about age. It will be a disservice to the country to keep talking about age when we get the platform. Well, after the platform has been achieved, the next thing we need to start talking about is an idea. I, for one, will not vote for a young man because he's a young man. The same way I will not vote for a woman because she's a woman. Neither will I vote for a guy because he's a guy. I will be voting for ideas. I will be rooting for ideas. And that's what we need to start concentrating on. I think we need to wake up from the euphoria of Not Too Young to Run. Thank God we got it. But now we need to wake up and start talking about policies. Start talking about ideas. One of the failures of the last generation is that we ran a politics, or we ran a politics that had no ideology. There was no ideology whatsoever. The APC is almost probably not different from the PDP in terms of ideology. New Party, all those ones, they call them get together. They almost have no ideology that they are presenting. So if we keep talking about trivial and mundane things like age, even after we've got the platform, then we will be failing again.
Another bill that made the headlines, unfortunately, not scaling through, is the devolution of power to states. Do you think it should have been the other way around?
I think a lot of people would bring different arguments to this. But I think the main thing Nigerians need is not just even the devolution of power. The problem of Nigeria has always been a problem of value systems. And until we solve that problem of value systems, the institutions we build will never survive, because it is people who drive institutions. So for me, devolution of power would have just been a symptom. You take that away, the disease is still there. So I wouldn't be arguing much about devolution of power until things like that national conference where people can come together and talk. What do we really need? Why do we need this? And even if we need this, how do we sustain this? Because when we build this, for example, if you devolve power, you see how, for example, one of the arguments is how state governors are abusing their powers now. What would they do then? If you devolve power, for example, how effective would state assemblies be? If we do that, there are a lot of arguments to this, but they all come from the fact that the masses, the people, are not yet politically educated. And they are the ones who run these things. And I think that education, that political education, is just one bit of what the value systems of the people bring.
Even at this stage, we have governors who abuse their offices. And it doesn't stop them from abusing offices. But there's a portion there that is there to take care of any governor. After abusing your office, when you leave office, you will face the law. And at the end of the day, if you're found guilty, you go in for it. It's just like you see what leaders, after serving their nations, they are being arraigned in international war crime against humanity and all that. So I think we shouldn't really look at what the governors should do when they get these powers. But let's look at the developmental aspect of it. How each state will grow, the competition that will come in every state, how states will be able to manage their resources and create more jobs without looking at the center, how states can function very well, effectively, without coming to the center, looking for monthly allocation and what have you, Paris Club reform, and all that. If the federal government does not give anything to you guys, you can't pay salary. You can't run your own affairs, you can't create power, you can't generate your own electricity, you can't, it's too much. It's too much. So we need to remove power from the center and give it to the states, because the states, that is where people are. That is where the people are. The states and the local government. So power needs to go down to the grassroots, and so you don't really need to fight too much to come to the center. Your state governor is there. Your local government chairman is there. The councillor is there. It's very easy. So we need to look at the advantage of it without almost looking at the disadvantage of what politicians will do with it.
Well, thank you for your thoughts, guys. We have to leave the conversation here, and we will be back in a moment. Stay with us.